Hello, welcome again to this new session from Quantum-Latino, the largest quantum event in Latin America. Now welcomes David Cardona, or David Cardona, as we would say in Latin America, certainly. So, from Strangeworks, he will talk about what you see in the screen, a strange journey building a global quantum startup. Welcome, David. Let me introduce you to the audience. David Cardona is a lawyer with a history of working in the computer software industry as a chief operating officer and general counsel. He is currently a co-founder and the chief operating officer of Strangeworks, a quantum computing startup in Austin, Texas. Prior to Strangeworks, he was a vice president at Goldman Sachs. He came to Goldman Sachs via the acquisition of Honest Dollar, a financial services startup where he served as general counsel. David, welcome to Quantum-Latino. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael, and thank you for that introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here as a Latino founder. I'm excited to be a part of this conference and hearing all these great panels about quantum computing from a Latin American perspective. So the title of my talk is A Strange Journey, Building a Global Quantum Startup. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey of going from a corporate counsel role to working in startups, and then also kind of how we started Strangeworks and what Strangeworks is. So I'm going to take this in 4 parts. So the first part of my talk, I'm going to discuss my role as a co-founder and what I do specifically for Strangeworks. The second part of my talk, I'm going to, kind of discuss what is Strangeworks, what do we do as a company and why did we start this company. The third part of my talk, I'm going to focus on building the company. What does it take to build a global quantum startup, and how is a startup different than a big corporation? And the last topic that I want to talk about is growth. What do we need to scale the company, and what does growth mean for us? So with that, I'll move to the next slide. So this is our founding team. William Hurley, who's here in the center, is our CEO, and Justin Ewens here on the right is our Chief Technology Officer. And I'm a lawyer. I'm not a software engineer. I'm not a physicist. I don't have a tech background. William and Justin do. They've worked in as engineers in tech before. So what role do I play in quantum computing, and how did I get to Strangeworks? Well, the 3 of us had previously worked together at Honest Dollar, and it was a software financial services software company. We built a software platform for retirement plans, and that company was acquired by Goldman Sachs. So we have a history of working together, and we worked at Goldman for a couple of years, and after we left Goldman, we wanted to work together again, and William had this idea, for he mentioned to us, he's like, we should really look at quantum computing. I really feel like it's going to change the world. And what, based on our research, we had been hearing and reading a lot about hardware companies, but we didn't see much about software. So we really felt like there was a place to focus on the software side of the industry. So that's what we did. We decided to build a company in quantum computing around a software, the software aspect of the industry. So the 3 of us have very different backgrounds and skill sets, as I mentioned. And, for me, I bring the legal and operations experience to the business. And, some of you may be asking, like, well, why do you need that role, in a quantum computing company? And I'll explain later in my talk, the importance of having a diverse team with different skill sets to build a business. And the 3 of us with our diverse skill sets, we kind of are able to execute on this idea of creating a software platform for quantum, and in creating an actual business around it, because that's ultimately what a startup is. It's you're finding a problem, you're finding a solution for that problem, and in creating a repeatable business model that you can sell. So as I mentioned, a startup, you find a problem and you try to fix it, right? So what is Strangeworks? Why did we start this company? So we realized that quantum has a problem, or several problems. Through our market research and through conversations with a variety of individuals, software developers, academics, employees at big enterprises that were interested in quantum, we were getting a lot of questions and people asking us, where do we even start? What are all these frameworks? All these hardware options. How do we collaborate on projects? How do we learn to code these machines? So we found that that people were very confused, and there were also multiple barriers to entry. Limited access to these machines. How do you get access to this hardware? There's this ecosystem around hardware, software, and educational providers, but people don't know what to use or what to focus on, and there wasn't a unified platform kind of harnessing all of these technologies in one place. There's no workforce. There was a lot of people that just aren't familiar with how to code, for these quantum machines. And then there's the technical aspects too, with the installation of the different frameworks, dependency management, shared code reliability, update compatibility. So these are all of the things that we were noticing through conversations with individuals that that there were these problems within the quantum computing industry that maybe we could tackle. So that's what we did. We decided there's a place for us in the software side of the industry to start a company here. So we incorporated the company in December of 2017. We raised our first round of financing. We've only raised one round of financing, our seed round, and Lightspeed Venture Partners led that round along with Great Point Ventures. And then we also started a few key initiatives that we felt would make quantum more accessible. We partnered with IEEE and chaired their quantum computing standards working group. We worked with Congress to help pass the National Quantum Initiative Act. We partnered with CERN to create the first deep tech entrepreneurial program. And we also partnered with Stack Overflow, and the community that we helped Stack Overflow create now has over 11,000 people in active users that on a daily basis are asking and answering questions around quantum computing, very technical questions. We also recently had an announcement with IBM where we partnered with them to integrate their quantum cloud services on the Strangeworks platform. So since 2018 up until this year, 2021, we've been working on building a software platform for quantum. So this past February, we launched officially the Strangeworks platform and the Strangeworks ecosystem. And it's all available on quantumcomputing.com. It ties a lot of the frameworks and available hardware, and it's creating an ecosystem for users and enterprises to be able to use all in one place. So I'll talk a little bit now, just briefly about the platform and the product that we've built. Our Chief Science Officer, Cesar Rodriguez Rosario, is actually going to give a presentation tomorrow where he's going to have more of a in-depth preview and use of our platform. So I'm not going to get into the details too much today, but I just kind of wanted to go over it briefly. We've built this platform that allows users to be able, it's our quantumcomputing.com, and it's users can run and write code, they can create and manage projects, you can collaborate with teams, and you can also share and publish your work publicly or privately. And this ecosystem that we've created is really focused on community and allowing people to learn about quantum. We're focused on tying all of the available technologies together. And we're also focused on creating a solution to bring value to enterprises and users that are trying to use quantum for real world applications. So here's kind of another slide of, some of the things that you can do on our platform. There's an educational library. You can publish the work that you're doing. There's a project repositories for teams and individuals, and there's a public profile, so you can get published if you want to publicly the work that you're doing for others to use. There's also a private side to this for enterprises that don't want to share anything as well, but still use our platform. So another initiative that we launched in February is our Quantum Syndicate, and our Quantum Syndicate is our partnerships. So all of these hardware companies, software companies, and educational providers, also consultants, are now part of the Strangeworks ecosystem. We with these hardware providers, we allow users to get access to the hardware and the machines that they actually built. We provide with these educational partners as well tutorials and content for users to be able to use. And we've also built for enterprises the Strangeworks EQ, which is a Strangeworks Quantum Enterprise solution. And it brings the power of the software platform that we've built along with the Quantum Syndicate and the solutions that they bring all together in one place. So as an enterprise user, you're able to access all of this to be able to run your experiments and do the applications that you need for quantum computing. So that's Strangeworks, a brief overview of what we've built. Like I mentioned, Cesar will talk tomorrow more in depth about the product itself and kind of work through some problems actually using our platform. So now I kind of want to go to talk about building the company. What does it take to build a quantum startup? Well, it really with any startup, it takes a really good team. And it also takes, because we're an early stage company, we've only raised one round of financing. You really have to manage your finances and you have a certain amount of runway to get you to certain milestones that you want to achieve. So for us, and it's also about finding a repeatable business model, right? So that's, navigating all that really is what it takes to build a startup, and how is a startup different than a big corporation? Well, with the big corporation, you have access to bigger teams, you have access to bigger budgets and more resources to be able to do more things. With us, we're really focused on one thing, which is building this software platform at the stage that we're at. So this is our team. Currently, we have 15 people, and we have a very small team on purpose. I think with a startup, that's also very different than a corporation, is that a startup we've hired a bunch of generalists. And by that, I mean, like, everybody has their specialty. I specialize in law. We have, quite a few software developers. We have a few physicists as well on our staff. But all of our employees also have multiple roles. So even though they focus on these specific things, they also chip in here and there doing other things. So for me, even though I handle the legal aspects of the company, I also have to handle the human resources side of things, sometimes the finance part of things, even helping with the product in certain ways. So I think that's what a startup needs at the foundation part of it is to have a team that works cohesively together, but is also composed of people that have multiple skill sets. I think that's really important. So for me as a lawyer, like, it is common for me to just focus on one area of law. That's been my background. But in a startup, like, I've had to have many different roles. And also, I think our team is really diverse. 6 of our 15 employees are Latino, so that brings a very unique perspective to our company and the product that we built. We felt it was very important to have the product in multiple languages. So Spanish was one of the first ones that we translated our product into. We felt it was important to create content in Spanish and have tutorials and resources in Spanish for users in the Latin American community. So I think that's a different perspective that a lot of our team brings to quantum computing specifically. So the small team can bring several challenges for getting a company off the ground, but there's also some other big challenges that I think a startup faces, and particularly a startup in the quantum computing space specifically. As a small team, you can't do everything yourself, so there are times where we do have to outsource certain functions or certain aspects of the business, right? So like when it comes to complicated topics such as tax or certain financial modeling, or even some IP work, we hire outside counsel for that. Even some development work, we might hire out a consultant for certain things. So one of the challenges is having a small team, not being able to do everything yourself. So you find ways to find the specialists and the talent that you need for very specific tasks. As I mentioned, we've raised one round of financing, so we have a limited budget. We're trying to use the runway that we have to reach a certain milestone. Which is we're in the process of raising another round of financing. So we've built, we've taken the funds that we have with the team that we have to build the minimum viable product that we can get out to market and show that we have a business here around this product, and there's a repeatable business model around it. So that's another constraint and challenge for a startup, is just a limited budget. Something that I think is unique to this space is that quantum is a global industry. Our chief science officer, Cesar, lives in Germany. So a lot of the talented individuals in the quantum space, just don't live in the United States. So for us, is like we want to hire the best talent. So, that's a challenge to be able to hire international employees. For a startup, it's not always that easy. Sometimes you may have to open an office in another country, which can be a challenge for a startup. All of the partners that I showed on that other slide, they're not all US based. So that brings some complexities as well. You have legal agreements and you're creating partnerships, and you're having to deal with international issues, like there's different laws around different data privacy and IP protection. There's tax issues when money is being exchanged. There's, some contracts may require that you have an office based in that particular country. There's also long procurement cycles and contracting with governments. So, you also have to be careful about the runway that you have when a sales cycle is going to take a year. So that's also can present some challenges. And the other thing is that, you're building a business, and you can't forget that we're a company, we're a Delaware C corporation. So there's certain corporate governance rules that you have to abide by. Ultimately you have to do things, and think about, the future as well, and create a solid foundation. I think for different events in a startup's life, whether you're seeking money from investors, or you may have talks about an acquisition, or even getting to the point where you IPO, there's going to be due diligence that happens to your company, at each of those types of events. So you need to have things in order. You don't want to run into you can't just be completely focused on the product itself. There has to be some aspect of or individuals in the company focused on the business side as well, right? What do you don't want to get to a situation where you've mismanaged your capitalization table, or didn't issue stock properly, or didn't get appropriate intellectual property agreements from your employees, and one of them leaves and now they own part of the company in some way. So there's a lot of issues in creating not just the product and the technical side of the company, but also in the business and corporate side of things as well. One of the things biggest things I think that is different between a startup and a big corporation is that a startup we're very nimble. We can adapt to changes in the market or take advantage of new developments sometimes much faster than a corporation, where you have to go through, procurement to get certain vendors in place, or even just getting approvals or budgets in place for different departments. That can be difficult. That can be a long process. Whereas with us, we can make that decision, fairly quickly and kind of pivot to something else if we need to, or we see the markets going a different place. So I think those are some of the, the challenges and that we face, in building kind of this global quantum company and startup, and some of the things that we've, run into, as we've, in the past 3 years. The last topic I want to talk about is growth. What do we need to scale the company, and how will we continue to grow the company? So we're going to continue to build our software platform and working on our business model, and we're going to adapt to the changes in technology and the market as they come. We're seeing a lot more government initiatives and VCs interested in funding quantum companies, and there's more enterprises that are working on or wanting to see how quantum is applicable to certain use cases. And to scale, for us, we need more capital, and it's good to see that investors are more interested in funding quantum companies. As you can see from, I think if you were listening to the investor panel this morning, I think they talked about, how, there is RVCs that are being more active in investing in the quantum space. And we need to continue building our team. We've built a platform that users are finding value currently, but we also, we know there needs to be more features, and particularly as quantum computing continues to develop, there's going to be other aspects of our platform that we're going to want to build. So we know that, quantum is a growing industry, and our company is growing with it. And we want to continue to be part of this development. And how we do that is, taking quantum worldwide. Presenting at conferences like this is something that we like to do. And as you can see, we've spoken at quite a few conferences. And it's not only to talk about the product and what we're building, but it's also to talk about quantum computing in general. We're really excited about the steady pace of developments and the potential for this technology. So we really want to continue to talk about quantum computing. And we're also excited to see, the more developments coming out of Latin America, from software developers and universities, corporations and government initiatives. I think there's a lot more that's happening in Latin America, and I think this conference shows that, and that's very exciting to be able to hear about all the work that's being done. So quantum in Latin America, at Strangeworks, we see a lot of potential for quantum computing in Latin America. Last month we announced a partnership with QURECA, which is one of the sponsors and organizers of this conference, to offer our platform to their users, to help develop online courses and other educational materials for their users, to be able to learn how to program and code, and understand quantum and start building this workforce. We want to continue partnering with universities, companies, and have users using our platform, throughout Latin America. And also, we're hiring. We want to continue to build our software platform and grow our company. And, we have technical roles to fill, and I think that we have the infrastructure in place to be able to hire people worldwide, and there's a lot of talent in Latin America that we'd be excited to talk to. So that's my presentation. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak and to be a part of this conference.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Very interesting, both parts of your presentation, about your company and about how to start a a company with this level of high technology. Excellent.
Thank you.
For a manual. I have a paper in mind, so I will write you to
Okay.
share it, some ideas. Thank you. Well, we are open for questions from the audience. We haven't seen anyone here right now. Let's see. How is out of curiosity, says Araceli, how is the diversity in terms of gender in Strangeworks?
So as far as diversity, we do have men and women that in working for our company, and we try to find the best talented people to work for us. So we do have both men and women working for the company.
Okay, I see. How is working with Harley? Martin asks.
How is working with Worley?
Yes, with Harley.
Yeah, so yeah, Worley is his name is William Hurley, but we call him Worley. He goes by Worley. He's great. We've worked together before on several startups, and we decided to start this one together and to work again. But he's a brilliant strategist and a great leader.
Great. How does the Strangeworks provide users with the access to the non-free quantum hardware? It's a question from Jalil.
So we're still kind of working on that. That's all vendor specific. So some of the vendors we're working on certain initiatives to be able to provide the non-free hardware. So if you have a relationship with a vendor right now, you can use, like, for instance, like their API key to access their hardware through our platform. But we're also working on other ways of accessing their hardware. But those are all very individual specific agreements between those hardware providers. So not every hardware provider is the same.
And Araceli is asking, can you tell us more about the new partnership with IBM?
I can tell a little bit about it. We're still kind of working on what we want to release to the public, other than what was in the announcement. But yes, IBM, their cloud service provider, and some of their hardware is going to be available through the Strangeworks platform. And we're trying to kind of still work through some of the how that access is going to work. But yes, IBM will be providing a lot of their services and their hardware through the Strangeworks platform. Fine. But we will make an announcement with IBM in more detail on our site as things start to develop.
Fine. Well, thank you very much, David. Thanks again for joining us in Quantum-Latino. Great to have you and Strangeworks. Well, enjoy the rest of the event.
Okay, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti. So for the rest of you, we will finish now the session and we will start immediately the next one. Thank you. See you there.